To the Indian Ocean.
On the deck of the adventure galley, Kidd once said to his first mate, "If I must become an outlaw, then it is the law itself that betrayed me first." That sentence is the very soul of Kidd, a man who believed that honor could coexist with the sea. He never saw himself as a pirate, but as a bringer of justice upon the ocean, a man entrusted with the mission to hunt pirates and protect English merchants. But that was also Kidd's tragedy. He fought for a system that abandoned him, a loyal man turned into a criminal by the very people he served. The world of Kidd is no different from the modern one, where you're hired to do a job, but when the tide turns, the one who hired you is the first to throw you overboard.
Move that cargo now, we have a tide to catch.
Double time, men!
Before the world ever knew the name Captain Kidd, he was just an anonymous sailor on merchant ships crossing the Atlantic. Born in Scotland, Kidd had no noble bloodline, no formal military training. But he had one thing the sea respected, a survival instinct sharpened by cold intelligence. At 20, he joined a voyage to the Caribbean, then teaming with French and Spanish pirate ships. At that time, Kidd was only a junior officer on an English privateer escorting a convoy of merchant ships through the Caribbean. One night, amid heavy fog, the convoy was ambushed by French pirates. The escort ship was attacked from behind, the captain killed, the crew panicked, the gunners fled their posts. Kidd, barely in his 20s, rushed to the deck. There was no time to await orders. He seized command, his voice roaring over the cannon fire. "Hold your ground! Turn all guns to port! Fire only on my mark!" But instead of firing, Kidd ordered whale oil poured into the gun barrels and lit them, illuminating the deck. The blazing light reflected off the masts and sails, making the entire ship shine like a signal beacon of an approaching English fleet. From afar, through the fog, the fire looked like a battle flare, a signal the English Navy used to summon reinforcements. The French pirates, thinking an English fleet was near, panicked and retreated, abandoning both loot and the untouched merchant ships. At dawn, Kidd still stood there, his coat scorched, eyes red from smoke, face cold as steel. He had saved the ship and the entire convoy without firing a single shot. After that, Kidd was promoted to acting captain, and the legend of the man who feared no sea began. When the news reached New York, William Kidd's name became a legend. They said, "He doesn't need to fight, only to think." A wealthy merchant invited Kidd to command his privateer, and during the Anglo-French Wars, Kidd became a privateer, a licensed pirate hunter. Once, while pursuing a French ship near Jamaica, his crew wanted to kill all the captured sailors to keep secrets. Kidd stopped them. "If we kill men without weapons, how are we different from pirates? Honor is the only thing that separates us from them." That sentence spread across the Caribbean like an oath of the sea. Kidd never looted, never betrayed, and always divided spoils fairly according to maritime law. That made him respected by both American merchants and English nobles. They saw him not as a mercenary, but as a man of principle in a world of treachery. In 1695, when Lord Bellamont, governor of New York, sought someone to cleanse the seas of pirates, dozens of names were suggested. But one name echoed repeatedly, from merchants to soldiers. Find William Kidd, the man who never breaks a promise. In London, meeting Bellamont and the nobles, Kidd neither bowed nor flattered. He said bluntly, "If you want a man who bows his head, I am not he. But if you want a man who keeps his word, I'll sail to the ends of the ocean for you." Bellamont laughed.
Excellent.
But that very pride and the stories of Kidd's daring yet principled battles made him choose Kidd. Not just as a commander, but as a symbol, proof that England could rule the seas through honor. And so, Kidd was given his fateful mission, to hunt pirates in the Indian Ocean, waters where no one had dared sail. He departed, believing this was his chance to prove that law could exist even amid the lawless sea. What he did not know was that very law would one day hang him. Kidd refused the warship the government offered. He demanded a special vessel, Adventure Galley, a light wooden hull, 34 cannons, and oars for sailing in calm winds. It was the embodiment of Kidd himself, both warrior and strategist. He wanted a ship that could chase anyone, yet was swift enough to avoid meaningless fights. On the day of departure, Kidd stood before 150 sailors, mostly ex-pirates, deserters, and drifters. He promised them not treasure, but honor and rightful profit. A noble promise, but dangerous. One cannot buy loyalty with ideals when men are hungry. First victory, the Fox of the Caribbean. Upon receiving the Adventure Galley, Kidd didn't attack blindly like other bounty hunters. He studied charts, currents, and winds, predicting French trade routes. Every voyage he made was mapped in detail, charts later reused by the Royal Navy. In April 1696, off West Africa, Kidd spotted a small French merchant ship carrying gunpowder and rum. Instead of attacking directly, he hid the Adventure Galley behind sandbanks, waiting 3 days for favorable wind. When the ship passed, Kidd ordered, "No guns, no blood, fire false signals. Make them think we're allies." The French ship, deceived, slowed down, and Kidd seized it within 10 minutes. No one was injured, the cargo intact. From then on, sailors called him the Fox of the Caribbean, a man who fought with wit, not blood. Second victory, the Ghost of the Indian Ocean. In early 1697, Kidd entered the Indian Ocean, home to the most notorious pirates, Thomas Tew, Henry Avery, and Avery's Brotherhood. Yet Kidd's ship sailed untouched for 8 months, despite carrying valuables. Why? Because Kidd built his own myth. He spread rumors that Adventure Galley was escorted by English warships, that he carried royal orders, that to attack Kidd was to attack the crown. He was not only a sailor, but a master of psychological warfare. That legend kept pirates away, allowing many merchant ships safe passage without a drop of blood spilled. But as fame grew, so did the fractures. His crew, men of greed and hunger, couldn't understand Kidd's code of honor. They watched ships heavy with goods pass by, yet Kidd forbade attack. They carry no French flag. A sailor recalled, "He told us, that ship's not French. We can't touch it." But we were starving, our hands empty. Did he think honor could fill our bellies? Mutiny whispered below deck. Captain Kidd, the man afraid of blood. Yet Kidd stayed true. No murder, no neutral ships. That made him extraordinary and doomed him. In a stormy night of 1697 near Madagascar, the mast broke, food ran out. The crew threatened mutiny, demanding to raid a nearby Arab merchant ship. Kidd stepped out onto the deck, rain whipping his face. "Whoever wants to be a pirate, go, but don't come back to my ship." No one left, but their respect turned to doubt. From that moment, William Kidd, once trusted by the crown, began losing control of his own ship, and thus the storm began, not on the sea, but within men's hearts. Weeks later, tensions peaked. William Moore, the gunner, publicly insulted Kidd. "You're no better than a dog, afraid of plunder like a priest." Kidd exploded. He struck Moore's head with a wooden bucket. Not a sword, not a knife. Moore collapsed and died hours later. That moment sealed Kidd's fate. A wooden bucket, seemingly harmless, became the weapon that destroyed his honor. He knew he'd sinned, yet he also knew that without that act, he'd lose all command. And thus the hunter of pirates became the hunted. The Indian Ocean, monsoon season. Adventure Galley drifted for months without success. The crew starved and mutinied in whispers. Kidd knew. Another week without loot, and they'd kill him. But if he attacked the wrong ship, an ally, the government would hang him. It was a perfect deadlock. Then on the horizon, a dark speck appeared. Quetta Merchant. Through his spyglass, Kidd saw a large, slow ship, loaded, unguarded. It was said to belong to Indian merchants, captained by an Englishman, flying a French flag. Kidd ordered, "Hold fire! Let me be sure who the real enemy is." The crew shouted, "The French flag is enough! Take her!" But Kidd knew the flag might be false. If wrong, it was treason. He shut the cannons, ordered an approach to capture without firing. On Quetta Merchant, the English captain Wright showed papers. This ship belongs to Indian merchants, crewed by Englishmen, licensed by France to avoid pirates. The French flag was real, but it was a gray legal zone. If wise, Kidd should have turned away, but he had no choice. His men whispered, "If you won't do it, we will." Kidd realized, if he gave them no loot, they'd take his life instead. He turned, voice iron. "The French flag is our enemy. The prize belongs to the King Adventure Galley," surged forward. Not a brutal battle, but a surgical seizure. Kidd's tactics were flawless. Within an hour, Quetta Merchant surrendered. Gold, silver, silks, and spices filled the hold. The greatest prize of Kidd's life. Yet in his eyes, no joy. That night, Kidd sat alone on deck. He reread the ship's papers, again and again. Part of him believed he was right. The flag gave him legal cause. Another part knew. If the crown wished to destroy him, they'd simply say, "It was an English ship." For the first time, Kidd realized, the law does not protect the loyal, only the powerful. Kidd returned, seeking recognition. He trusted Bellamont, the man who had sent him. He carried all licenses, letters, and even a share of the treasure as proof. He wrote pleading, "My Lord Bellamont, I acted under your name. Please do not let me die as a traitor." But Bellamont stayed silent, the silence of politics. If Kidd were innocent, Bellamont would be implicated. And so, to save himself, Bellamont handed Kidd to the English crown. The once commissioned captain became a political scapegoat. At Old Bailey, Kidd wasn't allowed to present his papers. Key letters proving royal service disappeared. Kidd was sentenced to death for murder and piracy. When he heard the verdict, he said, "If justice can be hidden by power, then let the sea bear witness for me." London, May 1701. Fog and the briny stench of the Thames filled the air. At Execution Dock, thousands gathered. Nobles, sailors, commoners. Not for justice, but for a bloody spectacle. Amid jeers and crashing waves, William Kidd stepped forward. Not in rags, but in a black naval coat. Silver hair from years of salt and wind. Eyes still fierce with pride. They called him a traitor. "I am no pirate," Kidd declared. "I acted by the king's command. And if justice still exists, truth shall follow me to the grave." No answer came. The hood was pulled. The drums rolled. The rope dropped. The trapdoor opened. Kidd fell. The rope snapped. He hit the ground, coughing, alive. Gasps spread. Whispers, "God does not want him dead." By custom, surviving a hanging could mean divine pardon, but not that day. "Hang him again," the judge ordered. Second time bruised, Kidd stood again. He looked into the crowd, not with pleading, but with the gaze of a man utterly betrayed. "If justice is the game of the powerful," he murmured, "then I lost long ago." The rope tightened. The door dropped. Snap! It broke again. The crowd erupted. Some shouted miracles. Others crossed themselves in fear. Whatever the cause, none denied. This was no ordinary death. Third time. A new rope, waxed hemp, thick and sure. No one spoke now, only the sea and wind. Exhausted, Kid looked skyward. 3 times for a false crime. Perhaps God only wanted me to see who truly deserves to die. He nodded, the platform dropped. This time the rope held. His body swung over the Thames's gray tide. Afterward, his corpse was tarred and hung in an iron cage beside the river, left for years a warning to all who sailed by. Before capture, Kidd had buried part of his treasure on Gardiner's Island. Gold, silver, jewels. When the English arrived, it was recovered and recorded. But rumors spread. That's only a small part. The rest lies beneath the sea. Thus began the legend of the buried pirate treasure, enduring for 300 years. People forgot whether Kidd was hunter or betrayer. They remembered only the pirate who buried a cursed hoard. But the true treasure of William Kidd isn't underground. It lies in how his story is told, as a symbol of faith betrayed, honor twisted, and man devoured by his own system. Some say Kidd was the devil of the seas. Others say he was the only man who truly believed in justice, in a world that had sold it. His story isn't just about piracy. It's about a man crushed between ideals and reality, faith and betrayal, law and power. 3 centuries later, people still search for Kidd's treasure. But perhaps what they truly seek isn't gold or silver, but an answer. Does honor still have meaning in a world where everything can be bought? William Kidd did not die on the gallows. He merely vanished from the world of rulers to become a symbol for the betrayed. Each time someone dares to say, "I am right," while the world calls them wrong, somewhere Captain Kidd smiles upon the sea.